Sometimes the weight of living doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like erosion, slow, invisible, devastating. You don't collapse in a moment. You hollow out over months. You smile. You show up. You finish the work. And somewhere deep inside, something vital disappears. It's not that you want to give up. It's that you no longer remember why you started. In the silence behind deadlines and dopamine, there's a haunting fatigue that sleep can't cure. You find yourself scrolling endlessly, eating mindlessly, snapping at people you love, struggling to remember the last time you felt fully alive. You tell yourself it's just stress. But it's not. It's burnout. And it's not just in your schedule. It's in your soul. Now imagine this: a man ruling the most powerful empire on earth sits in a dim tent near the Danube River. It's cold. There's mud. Outside, soldiers wait for orders. Enemies threaten from all directions. And inside that tent, he writes to himself, not as Caesar, but as a man who is tired, searching, breaking, and refusing to break. Marcus Aurelius. A Roman emperor. A philosopher king. But above all, a human being who lived under constant pressure, relentless responsibility, and the daily shadow of death. He knew what it meant to carry the weight of the world. He also knew what it meant to carry the weight of one's own thoughts. His writings, now known as meditations, were never meant for us. They were private notes. Quiet reminders to himself. Anchors to keep him sane, strong, and human. And that's why they matter now more than ever. Because the world hasn't gotten easier. It's gotten faster, louder, and crueler in its demands. And if you feel like you're drowning in noise, if your soul aches for a quiet kind of strength, Marcus has something to say. He begins with clarity: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In that single line, he offers what most modern therapy tries to teach. You can't control the storm. But you can master the vessel. Your vessel. Your mind. Your focus. Your framing of reality. Burnout thrives in the gap between what we expect and what actually is. We think life owes us peace if we work hard. We think if we just do everything right, things will calm down. But Marcus reminds us, life is not calm. It is war. It is chaos. It is winter and fire and loss. The only calm is the one we create inside ourselves. He didn't ask the universe to be fair. He asked himself to be disciplined. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work, as a human being. He knew the pull of comfort. But he also knew that avoiding struggle only deepens the soul's suffering. It is in showing up, even when exhausted, that the spirit remembers its purpose. But this isn't about toxic productivity. Marcus did not worship work. He worshipped inner alignment. His mission wasn't to achieve more. It was to live with integrity, to not be at war with himself. And that's where modern burnout becomes lethal, when we betray our own values just to survive the day. You answer emails when you want to rest. You say yes when you mean no. You perform a version of yourself just to meet the expectations of others. Marcus calls that what it is: slavery. He writes, if you seek tranquility, do less. Or do what's essential, and do it well. This is the beginning of freedom. Not in quitting your job. Not in escaping responsibility. But in remembering who you are underneath the noise. Remembering what actually matters. He challenges us to look closely. How many of the things we call urgent are actually empty? How many of our goals are just borrowed dreams? How much of our burnout is not from effort, but from misalignment, from trying to become something we're not? Marcus doesn't offer escape. He offers return. Return to the core. To the unshakable part of you that no market crash, no failure, no deadline can corrupt. He tells you, with quiet authority, that peace is not a reward. It's a discipline. A choice. A way of being. And maybe that's what you need to hear. That you are not broken. That you are not weak. That burnout doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've been fighting too long without armor. It means you need to come back to yourself. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Because the fire that burns you out, and the fire that reignites your purpose, they are the same. The difference is how you use it. There is a passage in Marcus' Meditations that cuts like a blade: don't waste the rest of your life worrying about others, unless it affects the common good. It will keep you from doing anything useful. And then he says the words that silence every people pleaser: it keeps you from being yourself. This is the silent killer of our age. We chase approval like it's air. We build careers, social profiles, even families around the illusion that being liked is being alive. But Marcus knew better. He wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me, we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." And that's how burnout begins. Not just from doing too much, but from being too much, for everyone else. Every smile you fake. Every time you agree when your heart resists. Every time you silence your truth just to keep the peace. It adds up. And slowly, it erases you. So Marcus offers a radical alternative: live as if you're already dead. Not in despair, but in freedom. When you stop trying to survive everyone's expectations, you begin to live. You speak more clearly. You walk more slowly. You care more deeply. And paradoxically, you get more done, because your energy isn't leaking into performance. He wasn't romantic. He didn't promise that the world would understand. In fact, he warned you it wouldn't. You're under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago, he might have said, if he lived today. Instead, he said this: if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. To live like that, in a world of manipulation, competition, and noise, is a rebellion. But it's the only way to avoid spiritual collapse. Because here's what burnout really is: not tiredness. Not laziness. But grief. Grief for the self you abandoned to survive. And Marcus, in all his rigor, never abandoned himself. Even as the empire shook, even as plague and war spread, he returned to his notebook. To his mind. To his values. He called the soul to stillness. To lucidity. He didn't just fight armies, he fought illusions. That fame would make him whole. That power would bring peace. That legacy was something you could hold. He saw through it all. And when he wrote, he wasn't building a philosophy. He was saving his sanity. Now it's your turn. Not to quote him. But to live like him. And that starts by doing the hardest thing in the world: saying no. Not in anger. In clarity. Say no to the tasks that drain you and lead nowhere. Say no to the endless self-comparison. Say no to the guilt that tells you rest is weakness. Say no to the thought that burnout is your fault. Because it's not your fault. But it is your responsibility. No one is coming to rescue your soul. You must do it yourself. Like Marcus did. In silence. In honesty. In relentless inner work. And that begins each morning. Not with a checklist. With a confrontation. He said, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. He wrote that to himself. Not because he always believed it. But because he needed to remember. Just like you. Especially when it's hard. Because the opposite of burnout is not vacation. It's presence. It's the ability to be fully where you are, even in pain, without running. Marcus teaches us that even a battlefield can be a place of peace if your mind is your own. He didn't wait for Rome to become calm. He made himself calm within Rome. So maybe that's the lesson. Stop waiting for the storm to pass. Learn to stand still in the rain. And listen. What does your life actually need? Not someday. Not next year. Now. Not another app. Not a new routine. But a new relationship with yourself. One that isn't built on shame or ambition, but on truth. You are allowed to be tired. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to be a human being before you are anything else. Marcus didn't just allow it. He demanded it. He called it living according to nature. Not your calendar. Not your career. But your nature, the part of you that still remembers how to be free. And when you return to that, even just for a moment, the fog begins to lift. You realize you don't need to escape your life. You need to return to it, without the lies, the noise, the pressure. Just you. Here. Breathing. Thinking. Loving. Being. That's what he fought for. That's what you must fight for. And not tomorrow. Today. Burnout is not solved by a weekend off. It is solved by waking up, and not just in the morning. Waking up from the story that your worth is equal to your usefulness. That your value is measured in speed, output, or applause. That you are only allowed to rest once everyone else is satisfied. Marcus Aurelius would call this slavery of the soul. A subtle, modern kind of bondage. Because when your identity is owned by results, you will never feel safe, not even in success. There will always be more to do. More to prove. More to fear. He writes, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. And that's the shift. From pleasing to living. From performing to choosing. From exhaustion to clarity. He knew what it meant to live in service. But he never let service become self-erasure. He reminded himself constantly, your only duty is to be a good human being. That's it. Not the best. Not the fastest. Not the most impressive. Just good. Just steady. Just real. It's a small target. But it's harder to hit than we think. Because we've been trained to shoot at everything but that. We chase relevance, perfection, reputation, influence. And Marcus says, none of that is you. Stick with what's in front of you, he wrote. Idea. Action. Utterance. 3 simple things. Think well. Act well. Speak truth. This is the Stoic antidote to burnout. Not by doing more. But by doing only what matters. Most people are not overworked, they are overwhelmed by distraction, fragmentation, and noise. The mind is split between timelines, notifications, obligations, impressions. No wonder it breaks. Marcus practiced something rare, inner unity. Even while leading armies and administering an empire, he carved out silence within himself. His meditations weren't abstract, they were his daily repairs. The way a soldier checks his armor. He checked his mind. He asked, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Is this essential? And if not, why am I allowing it to consume me? He was ruthless with illusion. He wrote, ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? And the power of that question is immediate. It burns through guilt. It exposes performance. It gives you back your life, piece by piece. Because burnout doesn't happen when you're doing too much. It happens when you're doing too much of the wrong thing, for too long, without truth. So Marcus calls you back. Not to less. But to essence. To the clarity of enough. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be fully here. You don't need to do everything. You need to do the right things. And you already know what they are, because your body is telling you. The tension. The anxiety. The fatigue that no coffee fixes. These are not weaknesses. They are signals. They are your soul saying, something must change. And Marcus, sitting in the middle of political chaos and personal grief, shows us the way. He didn't numb himself. He didn't distract himself. He returned, again and again, to the discipline of the soul. To live with virtue. With reason. With courage. With love. Yes, love. Because even in the cold logic of Stoicism, love is not an emotion. It is a principle. A way of being. Marcus said, kindness is invincible, if it's sincere, not mock or sentimental. That means showing up in the world with an open heart, even when you're tired. But also, showing up for yourself. Burnout is the opposite of that. It's what happens when we abandon compassion, especially inward. When we drive ourselves like machines, punish ourselves for rest, ignore the warning signs because we think stopping means failing. But Marcus reminds us, the universe itself rests. Nature has seasons. Even the stars move slowly. You are not made to be constant motion. You are made for rhythm. For awareness. For presence. He says, don't go expecting Plato's Republic. But be satisfied if even the smallest thing gets better. This is the Stoic way. To aim for excellence, but never perfection. To move forward, but forgive yourself for stumbling. To seek truth, and drop the weight of control. This is not a life hack. It's a life ethic. A decision to live from the inside out. To define success by the calm in your soul, not the chaos around you. And that's the cure for burnout. Not escape. But transformation. Not some future state. But a deeper presence in this one. A return to a life that is yours again, built not from fear, but from clarity. Not from urgency, but from principle. And the greatest principle of all, Marcus says, is simplicity. To let go of what doesn't serve you. To speak only what is true. To act only when necessary. To walk lightly. To forgive quickly. To live humbly. This isn't weakness. This is strength, the kind that doesn't burn you out, but lights the way home. Marcus Aurelius never called it burnout. He didn't have that word. But he knew the feeling. The slow collapse of the soul under the pressure of duty. The fatigue that doesn't live in muscles but in meaning. He lost children. He buried friends. He ruled through plagues and wars and betrayal. He had every reason to fall apart. But he didn't. Why? Because he refused to let external chaos define his internal state. He wrote, "You have to assemble your life yourself, action by action. And be satisfied if each one achieves its goal as far as it can." That's how he survived. One clear decision at a time. One honest thought. One quiet moment of truth. He didn't need applause. He didn't seek escape. He returned, every day, to the same few questions. Is this in my control? Am I doing what is right? What kind of person am I becoming? And maybe that's how we begin again. Not by fixing everything. But by simplifying. By dropping the performance. By choosing stillness over speed. Being over doing. Meaning over noise. Burnout isn't just exhaustion. It's misalignment. A life that looks successful on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. Marcus knew that danger. He was emperor of the known world. But he reminded himself, power, praise, pleasure, they mean nothing if your character is rotten. So he focused on the only thing no one could take from him, his inner world. And that's where healing begins. Not in some retreat. Not in some app. But in the decision to come home to yourself. He says, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. You want peace? Then your thoughts must be peaceful. You want freedom? Then your thoughts must be honest. You want to live without burning out? Then your thoughts must return to what matters. You don't need to control the world. You only need to control how you meet it. That means creating space to breathe. Space to say no. Space to reflect, to question, to remember what you're really here for. It means being okay with doing less, so you can be more. It means letting go of the image and returning to the essence. It means remembering that you were not born to be exhausted. You were born to live with purpose. Marcus didn't do this once. He did it every day. Over and over. He failed. He forgot. But he always returned to the path. That's what made him strong. Not perfection, practice. Not certainty, discipline. Not escape, engagement. So what would it look like for you to return to your path? Not the path someone chose for you. Not the one shaped by fear. But the one your soul keeps pointing toward, quietly, steadily, even through the noise. Would you wake up slower? Would you speak more truth? Would you stop pretending that burnout is just a phase and start treating it like a signal? Would you be brave enough to stop running? To feel the exhaustion fully, and honor what it's trying to tell you? Because Marcus did. He looked his suffering in the eye. And he didn't turn away. He transformed it into wisdom. Into action. Into words that still speak to us across centuries. He wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good. And it will ever bubble up, if you will ever dig." You don't need a new life. You need to return to the one inside you. The one you buried under pressure and performance and pain. The one that waits, still, clear, burning like a quiet star. This is not a dramatic ending. This is a quiet beginning. A reclaiming. Of your breath. Of your hours. Of your mind. You're allowed to live differently now. To stop chasing and start choosing. To stop performing and start aligning. To stop surviving and start returning. Burnout is not a failure. It's a message. And Marcus Aurelius has answered it for you, across time, across war, across silence. He whispers, come back to yourself. Nothing is more urgent. Nothing is more sacred. Nothing is more powerful.